Okay, we need a shader for Arnold. So we're going to use the AI standard surface shader. Let's go into Windows and Outliner. Go into Grass, the patch. Make sure patch is selected. And let's go ahead and right click anywhere here and assign new material. And go into Arnold Shader. And we're going to click on AI Standard Surface. Okay. Right. I'm not worried about doing anything here because we're going to have an input, a color utility input. So we're going to go into our Hypershade. Some of you haven't been in there for a while. And highlight it, and let's go ahead and graph the input. So click on this middle guy right here with the two arrows, a box with two arrows. Click on that, and we're going to graph that. Okay, so we just move these around here, move them to the side a little bit. Okay, so you can add anything you want in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a node. Okay, so I need to go in here and type in, because we need to create a AI user data. So I'm going to type in AI user, and it should show up data color. Yeah, AI user data color. There we go. So we want the out color to go into the base color. So we've got two red nodes here, two nodes, and we'll plug one into the other. Okay, and we're just going to call this grass. Grass, and we probably should put color on there. Color. So remember how you spelt it, and you cannot have a space in there. Do all underscore. Okay. In fact, you could probably do this. Take this, highlight it, and hit Control C. And then I want you to hit Enter here like that. There we go. So that's our grass color. Let's go ahead and minimize this for a second. There we go. This is what your grass looks like so far. It doesn't look so great. Let's go in here. Alright, so we need to go make sure that grass is selected, okay? This right here, grass, and click on this. And this should open up your preview again. We were on primitives. If you remember, we were on primitives here. And then if you go into preview output, we're going to go under render, and under custom shader parameters, we're going to go ahead and Control V that. We want this to be color. Okay, so grass color, color. Okay. So once you either type this out, or I usually copy and paste this so there won't be any mistakes on my part, from the Hypershader to this, to our attributes here. And you want to click on color, and you also want to click on, don't forget to click on the plus sign. That's really teeny small. It should be like huge and green, so make sure you select me. So click on that. Okay, so there we go. There's our grass color. And that looks pretty good. I like that so far. We'll have to write an expression for this. Just a second. Okay, so now we need to add a grass color. Alright, so with grass color, we see in, we write expressions, red, green, blue equals basically 100% red will be considered 1. Okay, green 1, blue 1. And of course we didn't want to do that. And then we've got yellow. So if you want yellow, you do 0.5, 0.5, and 0. Okay. So I wrote out a place to start. Okay. So again, we're gonna get you into just start you out by, you can copy and paste, right? So that'll be easiest for you guys. Okay. So I'm gonna copy this. Okay. And then I'm gonna go Control C. Okay. Let's go into Maya. And in here, we're going to do the expression. So click on the E equals. Okay. And then next to here, our grass shader color, we're going to go ahead and do Control V, apply. Yeah, we don't need all this stuff. There we go. So that's what we should have. So random 0, so it gives us kind of a green color. Okay. So apply and accept. Alright, so we can't see it here. That's where we need to get our rendering started. So Arnold, let's go into Arnold here. Where are you, Arnold? There we go. And click do a sky dome. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and add our sky dome, and we're going to go ahead and add a texture to that. So, excuse my phone. So I'm going to go in here and excuse me. I'm going to go in here to color and go to my file, and we're going to go to image name, and we should see my textures in here. I think I had to restart. Let me set my project again real quick. There we go. Let's do that again. Alright, so there's my file. And should automatically set it up as raw, which is fine. And click on that and do Control A again, get back into your attributes. Resolution's at 2K, so 2000. Exposure we want to be 1. Samples to be 2, something like that. Okay, I think we're good. And let's take a look at see what our grass looks like in this environment. And I can also get the grass in towards the light. So I'm going to face this way, move around, and I think that'll work. It's kind of the grass is kind of behind us, or the sun is behind us. Okay. And to get a better render, you probably be a good idea to add a light for shadows. So I can go to create lights and a directional light and move that up. And I guess just kind of zoom out, and what I like to do with these HDR images is scale this up and just kind of rotate the general direction of the sun, or get as close as you can. And usually to do that I just kind of set this up like that, and then I can just kind of scale that back down again if I need to, right there. Okay, there we go. So we know the direction of the light. Okay. Let's take a look at the render, see what we get. Okay, the error comes from not saving your scene. So go to File and make sure your file is set right. So you can see that your project has to be set. So a lot of students that I have that will open up XGEN again, and they're double clicking on the MB file, and it opens up, and you can't see the collection, or you get an error. It's because you're not setting your project the proper way. You got to set it the proper way by going into settings. So got to go into File, Set Project, click on the project, set it, and then you need to save your scene file. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay. Once you do that, it should set it real nicely. My lights are way too harsh right now, so I'm going to go in here and turn these down. So right now, let's go into Arnold here and use the color shift. Okay, color temperature 5800. Kind of gives us more of a daylight. And intensity and exposure, let's do those at 8, or 0.8 I should say, 0.8 and 0.8. Okay, and then the dome should be less intense at 0.4 and exposure to 0.4. Let's do that. There we go. Let's go ahead and render and see what it looks like. I'd rendered before, it's way too bright. There we go. Okay, so you can see that random, we need to kind of play with that a little bit. But you can see that the results are pretty good. It's not fantastic. The best result would be to use an atlas object, or basically what an atlas is flat artwork with a texture on it, like a photorealistic texture. And if you don't know anything about megascans, we're going to be talking about that and downloading, and you can get free megascans if you're using Unreal 4 editor. If not, you got to pay for it. I paid for it for a while. Now it's free basically with the Unreal Engine. And check those out. And it'll come in handy. Those atlases will come in handy. They're basically rocks and stumps. They're photorealistic. And what you do is you create a patch of grass. And I wanted to show you this because I thought this was very interesting, because this actually does hair better than it does grass. Because I still think textures are, is necessary for grass and foliage. So these are just tubes. So anyway, you can get it pretty close. You just have to go a little darker and play with the patch. Go back into the description in your primitives and or your output here for your color, and open that back up again. And you can kind of play with these numbers. Okay, so we can do a point, let's say a 0.5 maybe. Okay, and let's say 0.8, and let's say a 0.1. Okay, apply. You can see we get a little darker. Let's go with a 0.4, a 0.6, and a 0.05. Apply. It's even darker. So you just keep going. Let's go a little bit darker here. Let's maybe do a 0.2. Whoops. And a 0.4. And a 0.2. And apply. There we go. Let's accept it and let's check it out. Oh yeah, much better. Okay, cool. Again, it's not perfect, and you just kind of play with those parameters until you get what you want. Let's go back in here and just go even lower. 0.1, 0.2, 0.01 on there. Apply. There we go. Except I like dark grass myself. Not really. Bermuda grass is kind of really bright. I like the darker color. There we go. Now we're cooking. That looks better. Much better. We can even go darker. Again, you just kind of play around with it until you get it the way you want it to look. And let's go back in here and let's go 0.05, 0.1, You still have to have some kind of number here. 0 to 5 on that. Apply. Ooh, that's dark. Let's see how that looks. Because the sun's so bright on here. Oh yeah, I like that. Much better. Okay, cool. Just experiment. You got a little yellow in there. I like that. That looks pretty good, actually. I like that. Very nice. I'm not crazy about the thickness. Okay, so that's something you can change here, right? So let's go ahead and go in here and just play with these a little bit better, a bit more. I just not totally happy with this. Just gonna go in there and add, just kind of go in here and do a little bit more work. And I've got too many of these things in here, so I'm gonna knock those out. Keep it simple here. Keep it simple, silly. Here we go. Much better. Yeah, okay, cool. Now, more of it. Why not? Here we go, and longer. Okay, now let's take a look at it from a distance. I think that looks way better. Okay. And of course, a ground texture would help. If you get right on top of it, you'd see right through it, you know, even with it bent over, even though the bending does help a lot. But that's the idea. So now I'm going to render one more time in here. I think that'll do it. I still have the blade look. Oh yeah, much nicer. I like that much better. Yeah, that looks great. Perfect. Well, I wouldn't say that, but it still it really needs a texture, especially if you get closer. From far away, it's not bad at all. You know, not bad at all. Looks pretty good. And of course, cut grass, you know, of course, would look more flat. So let's take a look at that, see what that would look like. And let's shorten it down. Shorten the length down. And that would, and you take the curvature, see, because even short grass is more straight up and down, right? So you'd have to go in here and change some of these bend parameters, right? And kind of, you know, pull those back a little bit and then reapply it. But it would look pretty good. Let's see what that looks like here. And see, that still looks really good, even with short grass. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with that. It looks pretty good. Now, reflection and stuff, it's still being manipulated by the Arnold shader. So once you get it, once you get everything the way you want it, let's get back up again, and do another preview. Okay, bring that up a little bit more. And let's preview that. Let's render it one more time, see how that looks. That looks good. And the shadow's turning out really nice too as well. I don't care about the background image. I'm more interested in the grass itself to see how it looks. And I still have it flat right there, so let's go ahead. It's like cut grass that's grown, basically what it looks like. Alright, so pull that back down again. This thing's very sensitive. If I click anywhere outside of that round circle, it keeps adding stuff, so beware of that. Keep this as simple as possible. Okay. Alright. Okay, looking good. Alright, pretty happy with that. And then the next thing would be to mess around with the Arnold shader itself. Extremely happy, very happy with how it's turned out, especially from a distance. Up close, you know, it kind of falls apart, but it's still better than Paint Effects grass, I think. Okay, let's get into the attributes now of this. So let's go back, click off of here. How do we get out of here? Let's do Control A. Alright, so SkyDome, there's the patch, there's our AI standard surface. So basically I had to click on the SkyDome, do Control A to get it out of the XGEN, and then Control A again. And then I had to click on patch again, and in patch we can call that grass. Okay, and then that node that we connected is through the color, so don't mess with that. Now you can change the weight. You can make the grass darker or brighter, right? Okay, so it was at 0.8 the rendering I got, so you can make it darker that way. So if you don't like how bright it is, and then the diffuse roughness and metalness, you don't want to have those up. The roughness and the reflection, the grass does not reflect the environment, so that needs to be set at 1. That's why it was so shiny. You don't want that to be shiny. Grass does reflect, and it does have some sort of shininess. So if you want a little bit of shininess, so you can do 1.1. And the roughness, if we look at what we have in our shader, our Arnold shader here, can we do a cloth ball or something in here? I guess because it's different. Arnold. Doesn't really see. Yeah, it doesn't really see that in there. Okay, so we lost it. Hold on a minute. Let's go back into the shader because it's different with XGEN. There it is. Okay, there we found it. Yeah. Okay, lost it again. Click on the grass. There we go. So there's the shader. That's what it looks like. Rotate around in there. Okay. So you can get an idea. So in here, the IRR is 1.1. So if I had it to 1.5 like I had it before, it's super reflective, right? Okay, so that's what we got to watch. So we want it to be 1.1. If I had it at 1, that's like air. Okay. But 1.1, I mean, that's about as flat as it can get. And you can do 1.05 if you want to. Okay. That looks really good. 1.05. 1.1 and 1.05 is fine. And then understanding roughness. So roughness spreads that shininess out. Okay, so if I go all the way down to 0, it's about as shiny as it can get. Okay, and then the surface doesn't reflect as much light, okay, as I go up. Okay, so a perfectly flat surface would look like that. And we don't want that either. So I usually start off with about 0.5 on the roughness for the shader. So that looks really nice. So that will work. You can see some reflection of what's happening, and you do want that in the scene. So we're good there with that. Again, how I got that, I have to click on the grass. It was selecting. I think I had the sky dome selected. Okay. Right. So click off of that. There we go. And so now we're ready to do some serious renders. Now that we've got that taken care of, I don't know if there's anything else in here. Subsurface, transmission. Subsurface is how much the light goes through, and you can see the light going through an object. We're not going to mess with that too much, but I think that will work. That's more for skin. Now these are translucent, but let's see what it looks like. So we got so far. Yeah, I like that. And we don't have any like crazy shininess going on. And we could probably turn our light up a lot brighter than what we have. Let's go ahead and put that in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the color weight down to something like 0.5 and turn my light up to something like 1.2 so we can get a darker shadow too as well. And we'll do 1.2 down here in exposure too as well. It's a lot of testing and messing around till you get it just right. Sorry for the long video. So now that's looking better. Darker shadows kind of thickens up the grass a little bit. Without that, you don't have that. Let's take a look at what we had before. There we go. Alright, so let's go up a little bit higher on the intensity of the sky dome. Let's go to 1. That's what we had before. Now that the grass is kind of dialed in, hopefully it doesn't blow out the grass too much with the sky dome being as bright as it is. But let's take a look. I think we're okay now. We don't have the grass is shiny either. And that looks pretty good. You're pretty happy with that. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, nicer. I think that looks really good. Alright, so that's it. You're going to have to turn in renders. You're going to have a render, and I don't want to see the background. So scroll down, and let's turn the camera off. It's off so we don't see it. I really don't want to see the background. It gets in the way. So one corner, render. Your grass patch. There we go. Much nicer. That looks good. And because I don't have a texture, I'm just going to take that, assign a material to it real quick, and do a Lambert. I'll just do a ground color. Kind of get in the red there, bring it down a little bit like that. Brown, dark brown, something like that. And we'll render that out. So anything's better than gray. You could even do green, if you dark green if you wanted to. I'm just doing kind of a ground color. There we go, much nicer. There's our grass patch. Turned out nice. Let's get that framed a little bit better. Let's turn that on, and we want to have 1080, right? So let's go back in here, render settings, and our little renderer. You know, we could crank that up, but it actually looks pretty good at that level. And then HDR 1080. I want that for every render that you ever do in my class. HD 1080. There we go. Awesome. So we've got that set up. Get it centered and render. So do one on one side and one on the other. I gotta keep reminding students to go to File and go to Save Image and go into the option box and make sure you do not have that selected. Your images will be really dark. Click on Color Manage, View, and Apply and Close, and then go to File, Save Image. At this point, you make sure you select a JPEG. Don't leave it at alias. I can't read that. JPEG, and then go ahead and rename it with your first name, last name, and then any 255. And this is grass patch 01. There we go. Save that out, and that's going to the images folder. Yay. And then I know you're gonna say, I know what you guys are gonna say, why do I need two? They're both the same. Yeah, I'm just making you do extra work. Okay, here we go. It's not a big deal. Alright, let's do F9. Okay, save this one. I'll just click on that and just put a 2 next to it. There we go. And that's what you'll be turning in for the grass patch. Okay, I'm not gonna, basically you're gonna render the software render the same way you've used the software render, and no, I don't like it either. I don't like using the software render. You don't have to use it for this one. This one works great. So make sure you save your scene. You're gonna be giving me this scene, so make sure you put your first name, last name on there. And this will be just called grass patch, and that's what you're going to be turning in to me as your MB file. Okay. You can only turn in an MB file if I ask for an OBJ and an FBX. Just don't listen to it. Just give me the MB file. All I need is the MB file. We're good. XGEN just will not save in those formats. Okay, so that's it for that. In the next video, we'll see you when you create your entire scene.